Hare Krishna. It's a long title. I'll change the title later. I accidentally typed in chapter 18. Okay, we're doing chapter 19. Anyway. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaparayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamanyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganadavita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shubhanuste Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutarashiptaradhanats Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutarashiptaradhanats Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisheshu Nivadi Paschat Deshtaring Ukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhete Girmiyat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Nitaranam Paramananda Madhavam Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bol everyone. Yeah, so we are continuing our discussion of the Bhagavad cosmology. We are moving to chapter 19 of the 5th canto. Our discussion is still focused around Jambudvip. So, Bhumandal has various circular ring-like dvipas separated by oceans. The innermost dvipa is called Jambudvipa. I should just share. This is just quick revision. Let me know when you can see it. Yeah. So these are the various dvipas. They are not to scale because each of the subsequent dvipas are twice the size of the previous one. But this is just so that it is easily visible. So the centermost dvipa is known as Jambudvip. And why we are discussing the centermost? Because that's where we belong. That's our geography. Yeah? So this is discussed in great detail as compared to all the other dvipas are mentioned very briefly. Of course, they are all Bhauma Swarga. But not much detailed description is given. But Jambudvip seems to be quite interesting because Lord Shiva is based here. Mount Meru is here. And on the top of Mount Meru is the residence of Brahma, Manovati, and 8 Lokpalas have their official assembly houses there. So we discussed that, and then we also discussed the details of Jambudvip, or rather we are in the process of discussing the details of Jambudvip. So just quick recap. This is what is the zoom in map of Jambudvip. So Jambudvip is divided into 9 varshas. Varshas are valleys created by mountains. And over 3 chapters, Jambudvip geography is discussed. Of course, it begins with, I can say, it begins with the chapter which is the descent of the Ganges, which is 2 chapters ago. And because the Ganges first descends onto the center of the top of Mount Sumeru, initially Ilavarta Varsha is discussed. That's 2 chapters ago. So we discussed not just the flow of the Ganges and how it comes from the Karanadak Ocean through Dhruvalok, Saptarshilok, Chandralok, onto Mount Sumeru, divides itself into 4 branches which flow in the 4 directions and go through various varshas and flow towards the saltwater ocean. One of the branches, which is the Alaknanda, comes in our direction, eventually becomes the Bhagirathi and flows into Bharat Varsha, which gives us the opportunity to be purified. In that particular chapter, we also discussed about Ilavarta Varsha and how Lord Shiva worships Lord Sankarshan, his Aradhya and his source. In the subsequent chapter, which is what we discussed the last week, we discussed 6 more Dvipas. Does anybody, not Dvipas, I'm sorry, 6 more Varshas. Can anybody tell me which of the Varshas we have already discussed other than Ilavarta Varsha? One each.
Hari Varsha.
Okay, one.
Where Prahlad Maharaj worships Lord Nrsimhadev.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Amit. I want others also to answer. Yes. Anyone else?
Bhadra Varsha.
Bhadrashva.
Bhadra Varsha. Varsha.
Okay.
Bhadra Vasaya Varsha.
It is pronounced as Bhadrashva.
Yeah. Yama's son.
Yeah. What's his name?
Hayagriva.
No, he worships Hayagriva.
He worships Hayagriva.
So,
I don't know.
yeah.
His name.
Bhadrashrava is residing in Bhadrashva Varsha.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Then Ketumal, we discussed.
Lakshmi Devi.
Worships who?
Kamadev. Sorry.
Kamadev. Yes, correct. Who's Pradyumna's incarnations. Thank you. Ramyaka Varsha.
Vivasvatamanu.
Worships.
Malsya.
Okay. Yes. Vaivasvat Manu. Worships Matsya. Hiranmaya Varsha.
Aryama.
Aryama is the head of which species?
Pitris.
Yeah, the lord of the Pitris. Yes, the head amongst the Pitris. He worships who?
Kurmadev.
Good. And the last one, which we have already discussed, is
Kuru.
Kuru Varsha. Yes. So who are the Uttara Kuru is same as Kuru. Uttara means North Kuru. Yeah. So who's present in Uttar Kuru Varsha?
Bhudevi.
Yeah. Devi is worshipping whom?
Varahati.
Varahati. So we have discussed 7 out of the 9 Varshas. So the 2 remaining Varshas are, which we have still to discuss, is Kim Purusha Varsha and Bharat Varsha. So this particular chapter is actually continuing on the same theme, chapter 19. It is entitled A Description of the Island of Jambudvip. So it is continuing on the same theme and along the same lines. What is the same lines? The preeminent citizen in that Varsha, and which preeminent form of the Lord is worshipped in that Varsha, and the prayers by that particular Lord. Of course, this chapter is of special interest to us because we are now zooming in into our zone. We started from universe, we went to Bhumandal, from Bhumandal, we came to Jambudvip, from Jambudvip, we are coming into Bharatvarsha. Then from Bharatvarsha, we'll zoom into Bharat Khanda, which is Earth. So we are now zooming into our geography slowly, like Google zoom, maps, going and expand. So a fair amount of discussion happens in this chapter on the topic of Bharatavarsha. So we will come there. But we are going to be starting the discussion with Kim Purusha Varsha. Now this Kim Purusha Varsha is also a very interesting Varsha because there a personality who is very dear to all of us resides. So Kim Purusha, Kim means question mark. It's a question. Kim means what? Or is it really? And Purusha means a human being. Kim Purusha literally means, is this person actually a human being or is he an animal? So this Kim Purusha Varsha is the Varsha where the Kim Purushas stay. So who are the Kim Purushas? Kim Purushas are those species who are oftentimes we call as Vanara. Vanara means the same as Kim Purusha. Vanara is really a man. So they look like a man, but their face is like a monkey. So this is, this is what we may call as the planet of the apes. Now, I'm not saying the Planet of the Apes movie is Kim Purusha Varsha scene. I'm not saying that, but just because we are exposed to that, this is the equivalent in the sense of, this is where intelligent human-like species who are neither fully human nor fully monkeys, they are very powerful beings and quite smart as well. They are not really animals. And the topmost among the Kim Purushas, who's the best of the Kim Purushas?
Hanuman.
Lord Hanuman.
Jai Hanumanji. So he's our real hero. So our superhero, Hanuman. We're not interested in Superman, Spider-Man, Iron Man. We want Hanuman.
Hanuman.
And because our ideal is not just power. Our ideal is power dedicated to the service of the Supreme Lord. So that ideal is Hanumanji. He who could have done everything, but he was interested in selfless service of Sri Ramachandra. So I'm going to stop this picture sharing because we don't need to go into the geography anymore, at least for this class. So just remember, we are basically focusing on these two. So we are going to be discussing Kim Purusha Varsha. Then we'll be discussing a bit about Bharat Varsha. Not a bit, sorry, a fair amount on Bharat Varsha. And then the conclusion of this chapter is, in this water, there's the saltwater ocean all around, right? In this water, there are some additional small islands, 8 of them, which are also mentioned. That's the conclusion of this chapter. So they are like part of Jambudvip, but because they are like a little bit separated, the reason why they are separated also we'll discuss. But there are 8 more islands. Okay, so it's not on mute. Okay, so we want to discuss about this glorious place known as Kim Purusha Varsha. So Kim Purusha Varsha is on the other side of which mountain? How many of you just saw the picture attentively?
Himalaya.
Thank you. Himalaya. Yes. So Bharat Varsha, which is 9 khandas, is separated from the Kim Purusha Varsha with the greater Himalayan range. Now, this greater Himalayan range is the real big Himalaya. This is not the Earth Himalaya. Earth Himalaya is like a Lego version as compared to that Himalaya, because that Himalaya is very, very tall. This Himalaya is a miniature version, our Himalaya, even though for us it seems so huge. Of course, if you want the dimensions, they are already discussed earlier. Please refer to the Bhagavad. They are hundreds of miles tall. In fact, it is said, I mean, it's a side point, but I just wanted to mention. Sometimes, we think, oh, mountains are so tall and this and that. One scientist, I was seeing one science video, said that actually the height of even our tallest mountains are actually so small and insignificant as compared to the size of the earth, that the earth is as smooth or even more smoother than a billiard ball. You know how smooth a billiard ball is? So even with all the mountains, the earth is as smooth. And this is what I'm talking about, material scientists, physicists, they are explaining. So our mountains are nothing. Anyway, so that's a side topic. So coming back to Kim Purusha Varsha. So in Kim Purusha Varsha, Hanumanji is one of the preeminent citizens, but actually technically one of the main residents of Kim Purusha Varsha is a personality known as Arasti Sena. So Arasti Sena is actually the so-called, can say, the chief ruler or the chief person. Hanumanji is prominent because of him being such a great personality. And the main deity which is worshipped, obviously if Hanumanji is present there and if it is Kim Purusha Varsha, who will be the main deity?
Lord Ram.
Lord
Ram.
Ramachandra Bhagavan. Yes. So it is said Sri Ram along with his elder, who's the elder brother of Lakshman and the dear husband of Sita Devi. Lakshmana Grajam Sita Bhiramam. So all the other residents along with Arsti Sena, Hanumanji, and a lot of Gandharvas are also staying there. They are all worshipping Lord Ramachandra. So a few prayers are mentioned. I'm not going to go into the prayers a lot, but the chief point which Hanumanji and others mention in the prayers, that we worship the Supreme Lord, who is the King of the Kings, who is decorated with the most perfect of all qualities. So the special thing about Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan is his Maryada Purushottama. He is the supreme person, sets the most topmost example of culture. Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan's example is so super excellent that it cannot be excelled by anyone. And he descends into this world, of course, to display his beautiful pastime, to capture a heart, but more specifically as Maryada Purushottam, teach people in general the ideal character. Whether as a husband, whether as a brother, whether as a son, whether as a king, or even for that matter, even as an enemy, is ideal. We don't have time to go into the details of Ramayana right now. Ramchandra's character is so ideal. If you were to ever choose an enemy, of course, not that we want to be an enemy of the Lord, but you cannot have a better enemy than Lord Ramchandra, or for that matter, even Lord Krishna. Because they are extremely, extremely fair, liberal, forgiving, shelter giving, and liberation giving. even to their worst enemies who have really, really offended them. He cannot match the character of the Supreme Personality. I cannot imagine ever being as forgiving to an enemy. For us, even somebody does little bit to us, said like this, he did like that. I wish he falls down. I wish something bad happens to him. Maybe all of you don't think like that. Maybe only I think like that. But that is how conditioned souls like me think. Lord Ramchandra's character is so super excellent. Anyway, our obeisances to him. So Lord Ramchandra did not just come to kill Ravana. The Lord never has to come just to kill demons, because that he can do through his agencies. Actually, Vali himself was so powerful. It is said for a long time, or a year or so, he was just holding Ravana in his grip of his left hand and going about doing his day-to-day business for 1 year. See, that's why, in this, the world is such, no matter how smart, how great, how powerful, there'll always be somebody better than you in almost every area. So the Lord, if he wanted, he could have orchestrated so many things. So the Lord comes essentially to display his beautiful pastimes, to give us subject matter to discuss so that we have an opportunity to be purified. He wanted to teach us many things through this whole episode of Sita Devi being kidnapped and his going over to Lanka and killing Ravana. So many instructions. The Bhagavatam says, otherwise, why would he do all these things? Sita getting kidnapped and he feeling separation from Sita. Why did he do all that? And he himself suffered in separation from Sita. Why did he do all that? So, of course, we can understand this from three perspectives. One is, he taught to people in general that our duty of a husband is to go to any extent to protect his religiously married wife. He didn't say, oh, I'm a Kshatriya, I can get married again. Okay, done. What to do? Went away. Where also he is there, I don't know. I can't see. I tried for a few days. Okay, bye-bye, Sita. Go back and arrange for my next marriage. He didn't do like that. Such great extents. So this is the kind of husband every girl would want. Not one who will quickly forget and say, oh, gone. This kind of commitment. So this is the example of an ideal husband and the commitment. The other reason is that he also wanted to teach conditioned souls like us and other sadhakas. This is what it means when you get married. It's not going to be easy. Married life is not easy. Married life is tough. Becomes complicated. And that's why sadhus often prefer not to enter, because it's a complicated life. Full of tribulations. And the deeper and the most deepest intimate reason for why he did like this is because Ramchandra wanted to experience the Vipralamba Ras with Sita Devi. Now, this is a side topic, but since Ramayana is so beautiful and Ramayana is so sweet, and Ramchandra, just like Krishna, they like to enjoy all kind of rasas. You will see the rasa of union and you'll also see the rasa of separation, both in Ram Leela and Krishna Leela, isn't it? Krishna also left Braj and went and experienced the Viraha Ras, Vipralamba Ras. It is said, and I've heard this from devotees, when Ram and Sita were married, they were in Ayodhya. Sorry, side topic, but I can't resist sharing this. Ramchandra is so attractive. His pastimes are so attractive. It is said Rama and Sita, they were so much in love. Because as soon as they saw each other, because obviously they are eternally the Lord and his consort, they were so much in love. And can you imagine Sita's anxiety when Ramchandra was there to lift the bow? It is my desire, if Krishna fulfills, I want to, at some time in the future, witness that divine event. It will be so wonderful. The Sita Kalyanam, the marriage of Sita and Ramchandra, and especially Ramchandra lifting the bow. Such a wonderful episode. Anyway, Krishna willing, Ram willing. So, when Sita and Ramchandra got married and they came to Ayodhya, usually when newly married, young boy, young girl, they want to spend a lot of time alone. So this happens in early period of marriage. After that, they don't want to really see each other. I'm talking about material relationships. But usually, there is a special romantic affinity. Now, Sita Devi was thinking, I want to be always around Ram and, close to Ramchandra, but what to do? I have three mother-in-laws. I go here, mother-in-law is here. I go here, another mother-in-law is here. So I'm not really able to, enjoy this time of my marriage, new married life, and get enough association of Ramachandra in private. So he said this was one of the reasons that the Lord orchestrated the pastime of going to the forest, because Sita and Ramchandra felt the only way we can spend time with each other privately will be in the forest. Of course, we need somebody to serve us. Lakshman can come because he'll not bother us. He'll know how much distance to keep from us, and he will just serve us and assist us. So he will not invade our privacy. Lakshman was so devoted as a servant to Sita and Ram. He said, my eyes are always focused on the toenails of Sita Devi. He had such a strong service attitude. So in that way, Sita and Ramachandra enjoyed the pastimes of being in the forest. So, what may externally seem to us to be difficulties and all, for the Lord, everything is sport. And he orchestrates everything by his divine Leela, by his divine internal potency, serves so many purposes. And then eventually the Lord also wanted to enjoy this Vipralamba Rasa, all these pastimes of his separation manifested subsequently. So anyway, so these are very sweet pastimes. So this aspect of Lord Ramchandra's ideal example is also glorified by Hanumanji. And he also set the example of such an ideal king and a dutiful king that even up to this day, we speak about Rama Rajya. Lord Ramchandra was so fair and so equal to everyone. Sugriva once glorifies Ramachandra by saying that Ramchandra is a friend to all, irrespective of one's material condition. Na janma nunam mahato na saubhagam navan na buddhir na krites tosha hetu tairyad shrishtan apino manaukashaha chakar sakhe vata lakshmanagrajaha. Even though we are simple forest dwellers without any special assets, the elder brother of Lakshman has accepted us as his friends. Anyway, so there are a lot of beautiful prayers. We don't have time. It's already halfway through, 9:30. So that brings us to the conclusion of the discussion of Kim Purusha Varsha. So Hanumanji is there. So if you are wondering, where is Hanumanji? He is residing there in Kim Purusha Varsha. Now, sometimes some of you may say, oh, but I have heard Hanumanji is also here. Hanumanji is also there. Personalities like Hanumanji, Lord Shiva, Lord Hari, yeah, they can be in multiple places simultaneously. So don't be too bewildered about all these things. He said wherever wherever Lord Ram's Katha is going on, Hanumanji is said. I want to tell you one more episode about Hanumanji if I have your permission. So Hanumanji is so attached to Ramchandra, and Lord Ramchandra also comes again and again and again. So every time when Ram Leela is wrapped up, Lord Ramchandra disappears, but he leaves Hanuman behind. And we cannot even imagine how painful it will be for Hanumanji. But anyway, I'm going to tell this in brief. This is also another pastime which I've heard. I don't know, I don't think it is mentioned in Valmiki's Ramayana, but these are some anecdotes which are mentioned. Probably they're coming down through saints, but nonetheless, this is interesting. And I've heard from some devotees, so I believe it must be an authentic episode. Of course, every Ramayana which happens may not be very, very exactly same in terms of all its variations. Of course, the key characters are all the same. I read somewhere recently, in some places, even some of the storyline is different. In some stories, in some appearances, I think Ravan is not killed. Maybe he becomes a devotee, I don't know. Something like that. I read somewhere, I don't remember the details. But Yuga to Yuga, there may be slight differences in the way the pastimes are manifest. Anyway, so Hanumanji, it is said, towards the end of this Ram Leela, the last appearance of Ramchandra, he told Hanumanji that I and all the residents of Ayodhya are going back. Hanumanji also said, okay, come, let us all go. Ram said, no. I said, I and all the residents are going. You are not going. Huh? How can I not go with you? I am your supposed to be your eternal servant. You are going, I am also going. Ramchandra said, no, I want you to continue to be here. And then there's a long conversation. I don't want to go into all the details, but essentially, the Lord said that you have to be here and you will feel my association through my name, and wherever Ram Leela is chanted, you can be there, and that way you will not feel separation from me. Something to that effect. But Hanumanji was not listening. Then what happened is Lord Ram had a ring on his finger. And suddenly that ring from his finger, as Hanumanji was trying to convince him to take him, slipped from his hand, from his finger, and fell down on the ground. And on the ground there was a small crack. And it fell into the crack. Ramji said, oops, my ring fell down. Hanumanji said, no problem, my lord, I will bring it. So it went deep into the crack. The crack was very small. Hanumanji took a small form, went into the crack. And he went in. The crack was very deep. He went deep. No matter how deep he went, he couldn't find the end of that crack. Finally, after going a long distance, that crack opened out from the other side of Bhumandal. Because Bhumandal is a disc, no? Went all through Bhumandal and opened from the other side. And Hanumanji came out from there and he landed on Shesha, supporting Bhumandal. Remember our discussion? The Bhumandal is supported by the hooves of Shesha. And Shesha sees Hanuman. Oh, you are back. Huh? What? Who are you? He says, I am Shesha. I am supporting the Bhumandal. Huh? So you are here again? He says, what do you mean? He says, oh, you came looking for the ring? Shesh asked Hanuman, you came looking for the ring? How do you know? that I have come looking for the ring, and Shesha starts smiling. And he tells Hanuman, look there. And when he shows Hanuman to look on this side, on that side, there are thousands and millions of rings. And Shesha looks at Hanuman and says, Lord Ram tricked you this time also. Your ring that has fallen is fallen there in one of those rings. And he reminds Hanuman that every time Ramchandra comes, every time when it is time for his disappearance, you insist to him that you don't want to leave him. And every time the Lord performs this pastime, he drops his ring. It comes here and you come here. Meanwhile, he disappears. So again, he has tricked you. So now you go to Kimpurusha and decide there. And serve Lord Ram in his deity form there. So every time the Lord appears, one ring comes. That's how Lord has appeared so many times since the beginning of creation. All these rings have gathered here. So it's a very small, sweet pastime. So, so the pastimes of the Lord are so unlimited and so beautiful. So Ramchandra Bhagavan ki Jai, Hanuman ji ki. So having discussed about Kim Purusha Varsha, we will continue to Bharata Varsha. So Bharata Varsha, the chief resident of Bharata Varsha is said to be Narada Muni. And the deity who Narada Muni worships is the Narayana Rishi. So Narayana Rishi, as we know, appeared, of course, they are also, all of these are eternal incarnations, but they appeared in Badrikashram. And they are situated there even up to this day. They are being worshipped by Narada and all the other great saints. So it is said that Narayana Rishi, they will continue to perform austerities until the end of the millennium. So Narad Muni, along with the other residents of Bharata Varsha, they all worship Narayana Rishi. So not only Narayana Rishi is being worshipped by Narad Muni, it is said Narayana Rishi, another important function is there is another Manu, the 8th Manu, who's known as Savarni Manu. Who's the current Manu?
Vaivasvata Manu.
And what is his address? Where is he staying?
Ramyaka Varsha.
Yeah. Okay, so he is currently there. Ramyaka Varsha, we discussed already. Who is he worshipping?
Matsya.
Matsya, right? You remember because he was saved by Matsya at the end of the previous solution. We discussed this in the last time. The next Manu is going to be Savarni. So he's still around. He's waiting for his job. He has not yet been appointed. He's currently in waiting. Next Manu. So he's being trained by Narayana Rishi. Looks like. See, that's what is mentioned here. The 8th Manu. So Savarni Manu as well as Narad Muni, they worship Narayana Rishi. There are many beautiful verses. I'll just read a couple of them, recite them. This is a verse glorifying Narayana Rishi. Upashama Shilaya Uparatanat Myaya Akinchana Vittaya Rishi Rishabhaya Paramhamsa Param Gurave Atma Rama Adhipataye. That I may afford my obeisance to Narayana, who is the master of his senses, who has no material attachment, who is the treasure of those who have no material position, who is the best of all saintly persons, spiritual master of the Paramhamsas, master of all the Atmaramas. There are some beautiful prayers like this given. So I'm summarizing, otherwise we don't have so much time. because I want to discuss about the glories of Bharatvarsha. So please read the prayers in detail. So after these prayers are mentioned, there is a discussion about Bharatvarsha itself. So this is going to be very interesting. So please listen attentively. So Bharatvarsha, of course, when we talk about Bharatvarsha, we are talking about all the 9 khandas. So if you remember what we just saw, Bharatvarsha seems like a small piece of the circle of Jambudvip, right? The lowermost part. So that particular part itself is divided horizontally into 9 khandas. So the name of the 9 khandas is not mentioned here in the Bhagavad, but it's mentioned in Vayu Puran and a few other Puranas, I think Matsya or Markandeya Purana, a few others. So we'll come into that discussion also. And I will quote from a few other scriptures about that. But the next few verses are focused on the description of overall Bharatvarsha, the various mountains and rivers of Bharatvarsha are mentioned. Mountains such as Malaya, Mangal Prashna, Mainaka, Trikuta, Rishabha, Kutaka, Kollaka, Sayya. Sayya, I'm assuming Sayyadri, Devagiri, Rishamukha, Sri Shaila, Venkata, Mahendra, Varidhara, Vindhya. Govardhan is mentioned, Drona is mentioned. So many mountains are mentioned. And then so many rivers are mentioned, including the ones we know. There are other rivers which may be having different names. Chandravasa, Tamraparani, Avatoda, Kritamala, Vaihayasi, Kaveri, Veni, Payasvini. So many, around 20-25 rivers are mentioned. It is said the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha are purified by taking bath in these rivers, or even simply by remembering or even chanting the name of these rivers. So rivers are another way by which we can get purified. It's considered, flowing water is considered very purifying, and especially the holy rivers. Now the Bhagavatam comes to the topic of discussing the speciality of this Bharatvarsha. But before I go into those verses, I want to share something from other scriptures. Then I will go into the glories of Bharatvarsha. So the Vishnu Puran says that there are 9 divisions of Bharatvarsha. I'm not going to read the verse. I'll just share what is that information. So those 9 divisions, they are like horizontal divisions. So if you see the Bharatvarsha, it's like a line at the top and a curve at the bottom. If you divide it equally with 9 horizontal lines, actually 8 horizontal lines, not 9, it will divide it into 9 parts. So most of these khandas are actually straight lines, right? You can imagine oceans on both sides, except for the topmost khanda, which wouldn't have an ocean. But otherwise, there are oceans on both sides, so they are like straight lines, vipas with water on both sides. Except for the southernmost tip of Bharatvarsha, which is Bharata Khanda. Okay, I hope you can imagine. The whole Bharatvarsha is 9,000 yojanas, and each of them is around 1,000 yojanas width, with water separating. The interesting thing is, in case you are wondering why I cannot take a ship and go across, the scriptures say that you cannot in your lifetime go across from one khanda to another. It is not accessible. Now, geographically, why exactly they are not accessible, I do not know. But looks like they are in a realm that we cannot quite take a boat or a ship and reach. So you cannot escape from your khanda and go to another part of Bharatvarsha. At least we cannot. In previous ages, the very powerful personalities could. So the name of the 9 khandas are Indradvipa, Kasheru, Tamravarna, Babhasiman, Nagadvipa, Saumya, Dandarva, Varuna. And the ninth one is ours, which is Bharata Khanda. The total width of the Bharat Khanda is 9,000 yojana. So each each khanda is roughly 1,000 yojanas wide. A person is limited to only one of these divisions for his entire life. Sagara Sambrita, which is the word mentioned in Vishnu Puran, means that they are situated at the edge of the ocean. So the ninth Dvipa, which we call as Bharat Khanda, is also known as Navadvipa. We're not talking about Navadvipa of Mayapur. We're talking about the whole Earth planet is also known as Navadvipa. Now, why Navadvipa? Because it is the ninth Khanda and is also like an island. The other names of this particular Bharat Khanda in some different places, it is also known as Sudarshana Dvipa and it is also known as Kumaraka Dvipa. And the earth is also known as Kumaraka Dvipa. It is also known as Sudarshan Dvipa. Now, even though it is not mentioned here, another verse, but the peculiar different geographical feature of the Bharat Khanda as compared to the other divisions of Bharatvarsha, geographically, I'm talking physically, is that while others are straight pieces of long pieces of land, it's only the ninth Dvipa, which is Bharat Khanda, is round ball shaped. That's why it is also known as Sudarshana Dvipa. So beautiful to see. It's like a ball. It is like a ball which is perched on the saltwater ocean, connected at the south pole to the saltwater ocean. So yes, the scriptures clearly describe earth specifically. I'm not talking about Bharatvarsha, earth as around. In fact, it is described to be like the bale fruit. And how the earth looks like has also been described in great detail in works like Bhugola Varnanam. We don't have time today, maybe we'll discuss it another day. The description of how the earth looks from space is exactly the way our global map looks like. So it is very clear that it is Bharat Khanda which is earth and not the whole Bharatvarsha. So we'll go into that part of geography another day, because that's also a very interesting part. Now let's get into the details of Bharatvarsha. Now what we are about to discuss applies to all the khandas of Bharatvarsha. Bharatvarsha, with Bharat Khanda included, is known as Karma Bhumi. This is the only Karma Bhumi in the entire universe. What does Karma Bhumi mean? Karma Bhumi means this is not a place for enjoyment, this is not a place for punishment, but this is a place to earn merits. And because you are supposed to earn merits, there is a strict karma-based system, which is known as the Varnashrama system. By following one's Swadharma, one can acquire punya, and if one rejects one's Swadharma or performs sinful activities, one gets papa. So the Chaturvarnya system, the Varnashram system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, you will find this system only in Bharatavarsha. So don't go to heavenly planets and expect to find Brahmachari ashram, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis with dandas moving around. You will not find in other planetary systems besides Bharatvarsha people working hard to earn money, maintain a living, doing 9 to 5 jobs, So these are the pains of Bharatvarsha. First we'll discuss the pains, then we'll discuss the good part. Initially it may seem like, oh, why I am here. Even the 4 divisions of the yugas, the Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali, only exists in Bharatvarsha. In all other parts, even of Bhumandala, it is said the environment there is not affected. The Swargalokas are never affected. Even if it is Kali Yuga here, they are not affected. Or even if there is some effect, that will be very, very small. Of course, the effect there will be if there is nobody performing yajnas here, it may affect their the benefit that the devatas get, because the devatas feed from the yajnas that we perform, isn't it? So there's not much fanfare for the devatas and not so many offerings for the devatas during the Kali Yuga. But otherwise, the quality of life overall there for the devatas is not impacted by Satya, Treta, Dwapara. It is said generally across the other parts of Bhumandal, including other parts of Jambudvip, the other Varshas, the environment there from a piety perspective is just like the kind of environment which is there around Treta Yuga in earth. So it's quite pious. The Markandeya Puran says, and this is quoted in the Bhagavatam in this chapter also, that one of the special things about Bharatvarsha is based on the activities that a person performs in Bharatvarsha, he is assessed and judged at the end of his life, and he may either go higher to the heavens, or if he is sinful, he may be sent to hellish planets, because he may remain in the same space. Again, that's also another possibility. Or if they are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, the residents of Bharatvarsha have an excellent chance to attain liberation, which should be the actual goal of those who are born in Bharatvarsha. And the design of Varnashram Dharma in Bharatvarsha is done especially so that by regulating one's life through Varnashram, one will achieve the necessary psychophysical stability. And through that system of Varnashram, one will get the opportunity to associate with pure devotees of Lord Hari. And in that way, through the association of pure devotees, one will make progress in pure devotional service. And eventually, at the end of a life, maximum 100 years, which is actually a very short duration, one can actually attain liberation, or better still, achieve the lotus feet of Lord Hari by attaining the Vaikuntha planets. And this is a goal which even those who are in the heavenly planets struggle to achieve. So while Bharatvarsha life is not 5-star, it's probably 1-star, 2-star, as compared to the other parts of Bhauma Swarga and the other Divya Swargas. The problem in all the other places vis-a-vis earth is that the enjoyment in the higher planets, or even the Bhauma Swarga for that matter, is such that it makes it very difficult for the living entity to focus himself on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because it's so comfortable and there is so much absorption in enjoyment. Where is there actually an opportunity or drive sincerely engage in devotional service or take shelter? So the Devatas glorify Bharatvarsha. So they pray like this. So this is from the Bhagavad. I'm just setting back to the chapter. What pious acts did these human beings perform? They are saying. So we seem to have 5-star accommodation. They seem to have 1-star or half-star accommodation. But what pious activities did they perform? Was the Lord so pleased with them, not pleased with us, that they attained birth in Bharatvarsha? We wanted to go there. Demigods like us can only aspire to be in Bharatvarsha and achieve human births there. Why? Because when we get a human birth in Bharatvarsha, then one can actually execute devotional service. Lord Mukunda, Sevaupa, Jaikam Spriha. So one may wonder, why can't you do that in heaven? So the next verse they say, Kim dushkarair nah kartubis tapovratair danadibir va jayena falguna nayatra narayana pada pankaja smriti pramushtatishayendriya utsavat. In heaven, there is no remembrance of the lotus feet of Narayan, and our memory is carried away by excessive enjoyment of senses. It's not that they don't know Narayan is to be worshipped. But imagine if you're always in a party. I have to worship Narayan, but right now I'm dancing. I have to worship Narayan, but now I'm going to the buffet table to have my dinner. Oh, now, Rambha and Urvashi are having dance program, so I'm going to be watching it. And after that, I have a personal appointment with Rambha. So where Narayana Smriti is going to come? So they know that, but they are unable to execute. So too much enjoyment and too much suffering, both are the enemies of self-realization. But Bharatavarsha is designed as a balanced Varsha, where enjoyment and suffering are balanced, so that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi is clearly perceived, the miseries of material existence are perceived, and the human form is given enough intelligence to reflect on the real goal of life and make practical spiritual advancement by taking association of great souls and progressing on the path of pure. The Devatas continue, they say, one moment in Bharatvarsha is better. Serving the Lord in Bharatvarsha is better than one kalpa in Brahmalok. They are saying, this is not my opinion. Even living for a kalpa in Brahmalok, one must take birth again, but even a moment's stay in Bharatvarsha is more valuable. Though life on Bharatvarsha is very short, people can very quickly elevate them to full Krishna consciousness by surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus, they attain Vaikuntha. Correct? Let's just take our own example. You may be feeling, I got born in Kali Yuga of all times. Such miserable lives. But just see, for us, within a short span of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, which is barely a couple of days for the Devatas' lives. So many of us have given up our sinful activities, taken shelter of a pure devotee, taken initiation, practicing pure devotional service, become a part of Mahaprabhu's movement. And if we remain steady, we'll go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this small life. So all these Devatas who may be thinking we are high class, already been Vaikuntha, they'll still be busy in their party. So what is better? Nayatra Vaikunta Katha Sudha Paga na Sadhavo Bhagavatas Tadashrayaha Nayatra Yadnesha Makha Mahotsavaha Suresha Lokopina Vaisa Sevyatam. That place where there is no flow of the nectar of the topics of Lord Hari, where devotees are not engaged in devotional service, where there are no festivals of Sankirtan and worship of the Lord, such places are not worth staying, even if they are heavenly planets. The demigods are saying. So demigods are also knowing that the facility to be steadily engaged in devotional service is a much greater benediction than simply have a beautiful body and lot of sensual enjoyment. And that is why they are aspiring to be born in Bharatvarsha. Those who attain human form of life, demigods are praying, in Bharatvarsha, and don't utilize that opportunity for serving the Lord. We are hankering to be there, and they don't use any bad word, but you idiots, stupid people, they are saying, you are wasting your life, just 100 years. You are chasing enjoyment in Bharatvarsha, low class enjoyment. The real purpose is to pursue devotional service. Do you have any idea what kind of enjoyment we have on our place, heavenly planets? But we are hankering to be there, and you are chasing low class enjoyment rather than engaging in devotional service. Hopeless case. You have no hope. You will go downward into lower species. So like that, various beautiful prayers are there, which are glorifying the great fortune. And the Lord is so kind. It is said, even if one has any desires, even if one is not a pure devotee, somehow or the other one should develop attachment to the Lord and his devotees. And then one will make advance. And then there's one more beautiful verse. I will just read this particular verse and its translation, because we'll end the class in 2-3 minutes, maybe max 5 minutes. So just bear with me. This is a very beautiful verse. Satyam dishati arthitam arthito nirnam naivarthado yat nar arthita yatah swayam vidhatte bhajatam anichyatam ichha pidhanam nijapada pallava. It's a very beautiful verse. Please listen to the translation. The Lord offers material objects to a devotee who requests them. Which means the Lord is happy to give even material blessings. But, followed by but, but he does it in such a way that the devotee will not ask for more material benedictions. The Lord gives his own lotus feet to his devotees, because such lotus feet include all desirables. And he gives the blessings of attachment to his lotus feet even to those worshippers who do not desire them. So this is the special blessing of worshipping the Lord. The Devatas will give what one asks if one pays the price, but the Lord is always concerned about the real welfare of the Jiva, and that is why the Lord helps materially. But the Lord is always concerned that he should not grant material benefits in excess so that the devotee is just chasing after material benefits. He first asks for a better job, then he asks for a big house, then he asks for a Bentley car. He says, I want a private yacht. Then he says, I want, and goes on and on and on. So what the Lord does, he may give some material facility as per necessary, but the Lord grants the blessing to his worshippers that they get attraction to his lotus. So eventually they will forget all these other things. Akamo sarvakamo va moksha kamodharati vivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. And this part of the prayers concludes with this demigods praying that may we take our birth, if we have any remaining pious credits, please let it not be wasted in heavenly enjoyment. Please convert it into Bharatvarsha birth currency, whatever we need to pay, so that we can be born in Bharatvarsha. In that way, we'll be able to worship the Supreme Lord and remember his lotus feet. Because this Bharatvarsha is so fortunate that the Lord personally comes again and again to Bharatvarsha in multiple incarnations. And in that way, he creates good fortune for all the living entities. So this brings us to the end of the section on Bharatvarsha. There are only 2-3 verses remaining, which is just, will take 1 more minute. So the last 2-3 verses of this chapter discuss the topic of what we mentioned is what are the additional dvipas. It is said there are 8 smaller islands which surround Jambudvip. Their exact location is not mentioned here, so I do not know. The name of the islands are Swarnaprastha, Chandra Shukla, Avartana, Ramanaka, Mandara Harina, Panchajanya, Simhala, and Lanka. It is said when the sons of Maharaj Sagara, they were searching all over the earth for their horse, lost horse, and they were digging the earth in various places looking for the horse. Out of the landmass, they created these 8 islands. So, that brings us to the conclusion. 10:08 auspicious time to conclude. So we will end the class. We have completed this particular chapter. So in the subsequent class, we will, now that we have completed a discussion of Jambudvip, this detail, the discussion goes on further into the other parts of, again, now we are going to zoom out to the structure of the universe. So we did it in a very quick rush earlier, just so that you have the bigger picture. But now we'll zoom and go into the details back. We zoomed in, now we again zoom out. So various aspects of Bhumandal we have not discussed so far. We have not discussed the Lokalok mountains. We have not discussed the Loka Varsha, Aloka Varsha, Swarna Bhumi, Vajralepa. All these things we have not discussed. So a lot of these interesting features we'll discuss. And then we'll discuss, of course, the vertical universe and the upwards and downwards. Upwards are the heavenly planets and the various grahas, going all the way up to Brahmaloka, and downwards are the Vilaswargas, which are actually physically part of the Bhumandal disk, but they are at the lowest part of the Bhumandal disk. So we'll discuss some of that, then we'll discuss some aspects of the orbitals of Sun, Moon, and the grahas. That we will also discuss in the subsequent classes. That will be our discussion. Okay, so there are a few raised hands right away. So I'll start with Santanamji. Santanamji, and ask a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Pranam.
Always you used to say Ramachandra Murthy is like ideal king, ideal husband, ideal enemy. Like, is he an ideal father? This question is with me long for long time.
Yeah, he's ideal in all ways, but you see certain relationships in that particular pastime of his, at least the pastime of Valmiki that we have in the recent Ramayana, which we have a record, he may not have been able to, that particular Leela manifestation, display, his ideal nature with respect to that relationship, because that relationship was not able to be, displayed since the time of birth. For example, if you're talking about Love and Kush, because of the circumstances of the past times, he could see Love and Kush only much later, right? So is he an ideal father? He's still an ideal father. Because when he came to know, then he accepted them and they eventually inherited the kingdom and so on and so forth. But, did he display in this Leela right from birth all the way, taking care of his children, getting them educated? Obviously not. So it doesn't mean he's not ideal because he didn't do that. So Ramchandra Murthy as an incarnation is perfect in all relationships because he's Maryada Purushottam. There's no relationship is not perfect in. But do we have enough details of his being a perfect father? We may have some, but maybe, it has not been displayed to its full extent, at least in these pastimes. This is my understanding. But in whatever part it has been known, even though I don't know so much details from the Uttar Ramayana, about his relationship with Lava and Kush in detail, but we do know for sure that he is perfect in all relationships.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
See, in one sense, even though he is an ideal son to his father, he couldn't serve his father in his later years, you can say, in one sense. Yeah. So there are certain aspects of the pastimes because of which he may not be able to manifest certain display certain aspects of the relationship in full. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's not capable in potential to display those relationships in full. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Quick one. Only Bharatavarsha is having the 4 yugas. Other places is not having. Then there is no creation and dissolution there. For us, the count and the time factor, all these things are there.
No, time factor, what we are saying is, so dissolution is, there are different kinds of pralay, which we'll discuss separately in the Bhagavad later. So I don't want to go into that topic. There's a pralay at the end of Chatur Yuga, there is a pralay at the end of Manvantara, there is a pralay at the end of every Kalpa. So the Kalpa and pralay, definitely all the other planetary systems, include all the way up to all the heavenly planets, are affected. So there is day and night caused by the sun in Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Up to Swargaloka, the sun's rays go and day and night are there. Of course, the duration of day and night are different because on the base of the orbit vis-a-vis in reference to those particular planetary systems. But sun's rays are there. So there is a concept of day and night. So that is there. But they are not impacted by the Chatur Yugas in the sense that there is a decline of dharma from 100 to 75 to 50 to 25. That's the key point. There is a steady condition in all other abodes in terms of dharma. And that steady condition is equivalent to the kind of piety that we find in Treta Yuga. That is what I have heard. Okay. So there is no, high dharma, then slowly goes down, then Kalki comes and wipes out and then again brings it to Satya Yuga. So it goes down, up. That happens only on Bharatvarsha. The others, it is day and night is there, but the quality of the environment remains steady.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Amit Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah, somewhat related to the previous question. So, as you mentioned, the 4 yugas are only present in Bharatvarsha. The Varnashrama system is only present in Bharatvarsha.
Yeah.
So, similarly, the simultaneous existence of the 3 modes, the Sattva Gun, Rajogun, Tamogun, is only on Bharatvarsha?
No.
Is it that the Thomas Vargas and the other Vargas are only in Sattva Gun?
No. The 3 gunas permeate all existence. Everything in the entire existence is made of the 3 gunas. So, for example, Swargaloka, they are busy with sensual enjoyment. What is the nature of sensual enjoyment? It is Rajogun. But it is not sinful sensual enjoyment. But it is sensual enjoyment. So it's a mixture of Sattva and Raja. So Rajogun is there. So the proportion varies. But Sattva, Raja, Tama is there everywhere. Brahma Bhuvanal Loka. Maybe at the highest planets, it may be very, very small. But as long as material nature is there, there is some forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some Tama is there. Without Tama, you cannot even sleep, right? Because even sleep is Tamoguna. So, yeah, proportion-wise, if you compare it to what we are talking about Earth, perhaps lower, but all 3 gunas are there everywhere.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Yeah, Suraj.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Two questions. So our Earth planet is in Bharat Khanda. I mean that space.
Bharat Khanda is Earth itself.
Okay, so we can next birth we can, if not we are not serious, we can get our next birth in any of the 9 khandas, right? Because it's a Bharat Varsha. Right?
Could be possible.
Okay, so we'll have similar Earth-like planets where we can be born.
Somewhat similar, but the other, is similar in terms of what we discussed today as the characteristics, which means it is karma bhumi, which means that there is varnashram dharma, which means it is balance of pleasure and suffering, and where it is possible to execute spiritual practices and go back to God. In that sense, similar. But if there is any variation, whether they'll be exactly like the Earth, it is not mentioned here. But the other factors that we have discussed, it seems to be similar. Whether amongst them there are slightly more better, correct? Just like, amongst 2-star hotels also, there may be some which are slightly better. So this is 2-star. I said, no, but that one I have been, it's better. The bed sheets are cleaner. The reception service desk is better, and they have cold water dispenser. So there may be some minor variations. I do not know. I'm not claiming there are, but there may be. So it is not mentioned. But in general, the key principles that we have discussed across all the 9 divisions will be similar. There may be some slight variation across these 9 areas, but it is very clear that the other khandas are, straight strips of land. It is only Bharat Khanda, which is perched at the southern tip of Jambudvip as a round pale fruit shaped planet. Others, all planetary systems you see on Bhumandal, they are all flat pieces of land surrounded by oceans. Earth is mentioned very clearly as a pale fruit shaped. That's why it is known as Sudarshana. It is very beautiful to look at because it is, a little different. So that's how Bhagavad describes it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
actually, the Bhagavad doesn't mention it is round, but other scriptures mention it's round. But yeah, it is mentioned in other scriptures like that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Haribo. Okay, so thank you very much. So we've completed chapter 19. Accidentally in YouTube, I typed in chapter 18. I'll try to later rectify the title. So we'll continue next time with chapter 20. Again, like what I mentioned, if you want to know details, more details, please try to get this book, Bhagavad Cosmology, which gives lot of details, many of those which I have, mentioned, which are not directly in the Bhagavad, or even the whole condensed understanding of this is there. You can find this book. You can just get it on Amazon also. And if you're interested in detail, I mean, you don't have to go into this topic in great detail, but if you're interested to have all the diagrams, all the information, if you are like me, who is, likes all this kind of information, data, structure, and you feel excited by it, so it's not necessary to know all these details to go back to God. It is just enough if you are amazed by it and you have faith. Because you must have faith. If you start doubting, oh, really, it's an ocean of liquor, there's an ocean of oil and this and that. The last time I'm attending Bhagavatam class. So, we are actually very, very small and insignificant. We should not, if we do not have faith in Shastra, and especially where nothing from here doesn't tally with modern understanding. In fact, when we come to the distances, all the distances, the size of the earth, the diameter of the earth. So if you want to go into all those things in detail, this Bhagavad cosmology gives the distance between planets, the size of the planets, the orbits of the planets, all of that tallies with very, very, almost exactly the same. It's like less than 1% variation. So close. So how could they have figured out all these things if it is not coming from a higher? I see one more hand up. Tarun, you want to ask a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. You are just
Yeah.
talking about means the interest part. So means it's really an inspiration that you are able to balance between personal, professional, and the spiritual path, and increasing knowledge, sharing with us. So on the similar lines, means how do you manage? This is something question about you. Means this is very difficult in a grihastha ashram.
Hey,
So,
Krishna.
so just wanted to check and something we.
You're asking for a Bhagavatam class at 10:25 p.m. Maybe we reserve this question for another day, because
Sure.
this will, I mean, first of all, there's nothing, I'm very ordinary person, so not that I have something very big and profound to say, but anyway, it's an interesting question, so it's worth discussing. But I'm sorry, I think, I don't want to hold you, especially Malaysia, it is already late. For
Sure.
me, it's not a problem, but yeah, I don't want to hold you all too late. So we can, hold your question. The
Sure.
only answer I will give right now is I am not the best example, but I can share some thoughts.
Sure. Maybe I can put this question in the next class, Prabhuji. No
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, please do so. Please do so.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhakta. So we will see you on Tuesday. Continue our Chaitanya Pravaha discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bo.